Lots to talk about on this Memorial Day Monday. Joining me is Frank Holmes. Frank, thanks for coming on today.
Good to be here.
All right, Frank, let's start off with the Ukrainian presidential elections that took place on Sunday. The Candyman billionaire Poroshenko came through with a pretty big majority victory. Now, what this does with gold is we've been hearing from analysts over the last, since the tensions really began in Ukraine and Russia, this is providing a very solid base for gold prices at that high $1,200, $1,300 level. Now, stability is the buzzword that seems to have emerged in the aftermath of these elections. Now, with stability, or alleged stability, coming back into the market, what would that do for gold?
Well, you're at the seasonal low. It's a great question, and you must remember over the past 35 years, gold seems to try to catch a bottom in June, July, before its seasonal run till the Chinese New Year. So it could easily correct here, but I think the more important thing that took place was at the economic forum where Putin was making comments regarding the significance of gold and China and the huge, massive, epic proportions spending for infrastructure by China and Russia. But his comments on gold being independent, not gold in Fort Knox, not gold in New York, and not gold in London, but basically gold in Europe or China.
Now, off camera, we were talking a little bit about this big transaction between the Chinese and the Russians regarding infrastructure. Now, how does this play into the metals markets?
Well, it's really important. So when we had rising gold from 250 running up to the 900 level, we had global GDP growth, which was strong, and that helps drive that love trade. I think what's important for investors is that this time last year we had a change where rates were negative, went to positive, gold fell. Now they've been gone back to negative with inflation rates rising. I think it's really important to follow this love trade. And if we get India and China rising GDP per capita, Thailand, also a huge consumer of gold, gets the political stability there, then we'll see gold trade higher over the next 6 months.
All right, Frank, let's take it off to the OT segment. We're going to take a look at opportunities and threats in the gold market. So in your SWOT analysis this morning, you mentioned India and maybe a resurgence in demand, obviously with the new party coming in. Now, what do you see coming out of India in terms of demand?
Well, when I look at India, I look at leadership for creating rising GDP per capita, because the higher the GDP per capita is rising in India, the greater the consumption of gold for weddings, for gift giving, etc. Modi, the new leader, is a no BS type of character that is focused on economic development. And in the province of where he was located, in Gujarat, his GDP per capita in that particular province was greater than China's. And I think that's what's significant, and why a lot of people voted for him was they want to see rising GDP per capita.
Now, what about threats this week? What do you see on the docket that might affect gold prices?
Well, Thailand still is social instability in the short term here, because they are a large consumer of gold, is a factor to consider. But I think what's on the positive note, the big opportunity, the big play, is what took place last week with the HSBC flash PMI out of China. It's about 90% of the manufacturing companies. And when we look at PMI, or in the US they call it ISM, it is basically a great tool to forecast 6 months out. And there's a high correlation of commodity demand with rising PMIs. So with that, if we get a term with the 1 month to the 3 months for all the PMIs again for the world, we're going to see a very robust second half of 2014.
Okay, Frank, now let's head to that touchdown pass for gold this week. What do you see?
Well, there's no big touchdown pass except for confirmation as data comes out in these PMIs. The flash PMI is always earlier, and now we're going to get other PMIs coming out to validate that there is a real change taking place globally.
That was great, Frank. Thanks for joining me today.
Take care.
And thank you for watching this edition of Gold Game Film with Frank Holmes. If you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to send them to newsfeedback@kitco.com. Have a good week.